We promised you an amazing package. We also gave that to you. And right now, we're going to be talking to a very special guest. And let's talk about Indigenous stories. Now, Indigenous stories are a vital link to culture, land, and heritage, shaping modern identities and empowering communities. These narratives not only preserve tradition, but also influence contemporary social justice and cultural recognition. Joining me to discuss this impact of Indigenous stories and their impact on modern identity is filmmaker Toyin Moore. Hi, Toyin Moore. Good afternoon, if I should say so myself. How you doing?
Good afternoon. I'm very well, thank you.
All right, it's good to have you join us to have this conversation quickly. So let's jump right into it. Now, how do Indigenous stories influence your approach in filmmaking? How does it influence your approach in filmmaking, Indigenous stories?
Well, I think since 2019, there's been an intentional drive toward telling Indigenous stories, because we realize that, especially being in the diaspora here, that there's some sort of sense of identity loss, you know, and we wanted to create, first of all, a sense of African pride, you know, for people who have challenges with what their identity is and all of that. So we want to help them to show them the history, where they're from, you know, who they are. That way, people can buy back this sense of, this is who I am. You know, I'm an African, I have a, you know, defined origin, I'm of what, I have value, you know, and all of that. And this is one of the things that has prompted, you know, a dive into telling cultural stories in today's world.
Interesting. I like that. Just to pick up from what you said, what do you think, what role do you think Indigenous stories play in shaping contemporary cultural identity? Because, like you said, a lot of things have changed over the years, and some people don't even know about. So do you think telling stories like this would help, you know, inform people about the cultural heritage and where we're coming from as a people?
100%. You know, I'm a keen, I have a keen interest in K-drama, because I noticed that regardless of, you know, what genre of film they're showing, they tend to do like a splash of the culture, either through food or through some sort of passed down ideologies. With us, especially us Africans of African descent, there's a tendency that some of our children here, they begin to feel like they're second-class citizens, and some of them, they have lost that, you know, that sense of, I can achieve this, I can become this, you know, the color of my skin it doesn't define me as a weaker or a lesser human. Do you understand? By telling stories of incredible things that have been done in history by their progenitors, their ancestors, you know, it's given a sense of, especially with this black movement, you know, that time when there was this outcry of people of black descent, you know, rising up and speaking out and being represented properly. One of the strongest ways to do that is to paint a picture or to draw a map or to, in any, as it were, show them or tell a narrative of who they are, where they're from, and who they become.
Interesting. I like that. The fact that you spoke about painting a picture to tell a story about who they are and where they're from. Well, we'll still have more on this conversation, but I'd like us to take a quick break. When we come back, I'm going to be asking you some personal questions about your film and how what it took you to create that project. But let's take this quick break. We'll be right back. All right, we're still here on East Central talking about how Indigenous movies and Indigenous storytelling affects or influence modern day culture. And with me, I have a special guest who's been chatting with us, Toyin Moore. She's a filmmaker. So Toyin, we're back to the conversation right now. How do you ensure authenticity when portraying Indigenous narratives in your films? Because you have to be sure that you're saying it right. So how do you make sure you maintain authenticity in creating these films?
We do a lot of research, and Many times we do collaborative work with those back home in Nigeria or Africa or wherever part of the world we're telling the story. And we also ensure that these narratives that we're telling are not the prejudiced ones, they're not the whitewashed ones, they're not the, do you understand, edited ones. We do our best to make sure that, you know, we get the authentic story. There are a lot of historians in Nigeria who are very well versed in the history of the country, and we engage them. Even in our films, we engage some of our very much older, mature actors, those who have been in it for like over 30 years or more, so that in coming together with us, they are able to help us paint a true picture, you know, of the stories we like to tell.
What message do you hope to convey to the audience about indigenous identities through this, your film, IREKE, The Rise of the Maroons? You know, we have a couple of top actors in there, and you made mention about having also veteran actors as well. So what message do you intend to tell quickly?
Yes, IREKE is a story that has been overlooked. The story of IREKE is about the uprising during the slave trade. Everybody's heard about the slave trade story. It's been done in different ways, different forms, television series or major films like Roots and the rest of it. And the whole world has, you know, talked about it. But nobody really has heard about the Maroons. Or I would say a lot of people have not heard about the Maroons. The Maroons were the slaves that fought back. These slaves made up of people from Ghana, from Nigeria, from the Caribbean, you know, and they actually rose up, they fought back, and they resisted. And they overcame the colonial masters such that they sort of had to have a peace agreement of sort, where they were said to be told to stay on this side and the colonial masters will stay on this side. Until today, even when you go to Jamaica, there is a settlement of the Maroons who were never colonized. They refused to be colonized. So this story, we tell it not just to remind us of history, but to remind us of who we are, our resilience, the fact that you can stand up for yourself, you can refuse to be conquered, you can get up and make it happen, irrespective of the kind of antagonism or the kind of force that comes against you. You can actually rise. This is what we're made of. We're Maroons.
Chat. We appreciate your time. If we had more time, we would have, you know, gotten more into this conversation. But definitely, it's a good side, it's a good angle to take it from. Like you said, these are stories that have never been told, and we're happy that we're a part of this conversation. Thank you for joining me on the show.